Waiting for the best deals? Spring Black Friday savings are here. Shop early access now at Blinds.com and save big on new custom window treatments. Blinds.com makes upgrading your window treatments easy with free virtual consultations, free samples sent to your door, and professional measure and installation services. Plus, you always get Blinds.com's 100% satisfaction guarantee. Shop Blinds.com's Spring Black Friday early access now. Save up to 40% with minimum purchase, plus a free measure. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Siente is a nonprofit here in the city, and they want to do something big. Give 10 families $500 a month, guaranteed income, no restrictions. This organization is focused on getting Philadelphians out of poverty.
My name is Michelle Carrera. I'm the CEO of Siente. Each family works on an individual plan to achieve their economic mobility, and we will be running the pilot for 14 to 18 months with the hope to achieve results that can help us influence public policy and inform stakeholders when it comes to the benefit cliff and how to help families move from poverty to prosperity.
It's Monday, April 21st. I'm Trenae Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about. Why is your organization doing this program? Why do you think that you can help families get out of poverty and thrive with $500 a month?
We have been around for over 40 years, and in our history as an organization, we have always focused in providing families with opportunities to progress and prosper. In the last few years, we have been narrowing that focus down into economic mobility and social mobility, specifically trying to help families to move from poverty to middle class. So beyond the $500 that we provide in the guarantee income, families are part of a project that we call the Prosperity Project, where they receive wraparound services and an economic mobility counselor that will help them through their journey to prosperity. So the reason that we are doing a basic guarantee income is that when you look at the social safety net and how to help families to progress, we want to make sure that the families have an opportunity to work on their sense of agency, right? Sometimes our social safety net is built on a way that we tell the family how they can get out of poverty, right? We provide SNAP benefits, we provide Section 8 vouchers. We're constantly telling, this is how I'm going to help you. And giving unrestricted income, it's almost like giving back a little bit of autonomy to that family to decide, okay, if I'm in my path to prosperity, how can that cash help me advance the goals that I have and eventually become more stable financially, either through stabilizing themselves emotionally and reducing the stress of not having enough every month, or whether having an extra cash that they can put aside to reinvest either in their children's education or in an entrepreneurship venture that they may want to pursue. The basic guarantee income is our way of also giving the autonomy to the family to be architects of their own progress, like for them to do the self-determination of how to better use the cash to progress.
Where is the $500 coming from? How is this program funded?
The pilot began with the support of the local initiative corporation, LIS. They were the first funder coming to the table. Andy is a believer of the work that we have been doing. Andy Frischkos, the CEO of LIS, and Vanguard Charitable also came to the table. We presented the idea of the Prosperity Project. Like I say, it's beyond the $500. So Vanguard is supporting the economic mobility counselors, is also supporting part of the basic guarantee income and supporting some of the interventions that we're doing with the families as part of the Prosperity Project.
I see reports floating around saying, most American households need 2 full-time incomes to survive and thrive. I mean, what does this mean if you're a single income household and you're not making 6 figures a year? What daily struggles are people facing?
For our families, we see everything from food insecurity to housing insecurity to health insecurity. The reality is that in Philadelphia, even for a single person with a child to be able to afford a house and everything that they need on their own, we're looking at an income of $60,000 a year. That's not the income in most of our minority communities. So the struggle is real. The ability to keep a roof over your head is real. In our families, we see a lot of overcrowding. Families like sharing 2 or 3 families, sometimes sharing a house because they cannot afford on the income that they have a house on their own. So sometimes, I think in United States, sometimes when we speak about poverty, we tend to distance ourselves from the struggle of the people. And it's not easy to get home and have to pick between, do I grocery shop or do I pay my electric bill this month? And that's the reality of a lot of the families that we have been serving. We have learned that through the years working in the community. And we think it's time for us to go deeper. A lot of time, the interventions, right? Like you don't have a job and I help you get a job, but that job just move you from poor to working poor, right? Like you say, one salary is not enough. Right. So for us, what we're trying to figure out as we partner with the families is how we can get you to increase that income to a level that you can be self-sufficient. And if we cannot do that in one generation with the adult on the household, how do we intervene with that child to make sure that your child will have a better income than what you're having, right? In order to break that cycle of poverty. So we're conscious that we're not going to be able to move every adult that come through the door immediately into a $60,000 income. That way our focus is on families. So when we sit down with that family, we say, okay, what is the plan for the adult? But what is the plan for the children too? So we make sure that from a 2-generation approach, we're tackling poverty both in the short term and the long term game.
Dr. Michelle, how are the families chosen for this pilot program?
So for this pilot program, we chose the families we did an open call to the families that we are already serving in some of our other programs, like our preschool programs, after school, our housing counseling. And we also posted on social media so members of the general community could apply.
What was the response like?
It was a good response. Like initially, we began with one of the housing initiative, tighten it up to the Prosperity Project. And for 10 houses, initially we had over 70 applications. The caveat of this program is that for you to be part of the program, you need to be willing to be part of the Prosperity Project. So the families do an interview with an economic mobility counselor. We evaluate what is their social capital, what is their human capital, and what is their fiscal capital. That's our model. And they determine goals with that economic mobility counselor. And then they participate of a full-day retreat. And in that full-day retreat, they learn about economic mobility. From day one, we say, we don't want to build a program that is like, here we come to the rescue and this is what you need to do. We want the family to be part of designing their own mobility plan. So part of the project is that they spend a full day understanding how your fiscal capital, how you manage your budget, the assets that you have influence your economic mobility. We go into human capital, the power of education, the power of upskilling yourself, the power of education on your children. They understand that piece. And then we go into social capital, that a lot of nonprofits are not yet working on it. For us, we know that economic mobility is also about who you know and who you surround yourself with. What is your support network? Do you know people that are not immediate neighbors, that are not immediate families? Do you know people from other social classes? Can we connect you with, if you have an interest in becoming an entrepreneur, can we connect you with entrepreneurs so we can open some opportunities? So it's a holistic approach to economic mobility that we're super excited to pilot and to hopefully get some insights into how to better support our families in their movement to middle class.
And did the program start already?
The program began. We have already 10 families that are fully in the project, 10 families that are in the basic guarantee income project. we're right now recruiting. We're in the process of enrolling additional families this semester. So by the end of the summer, we will have 200 families. Not every family that enroll will be part of the basic guarantee income initially, but they will be part of the prosperity project of having that economic mobility counselor working with them.
This is all just so fascinating. We'll have more about Ciente's Guaranteed Income Pilot when we come back. Mother's Day is coming up, so to celebrate and honor her, gift her with something special, like an Aura digital picture frame. My mom lives in a different time zone, so when she comes to visit us in Philly, we take lots of pictures. I love the one where we're all squeezed on a couch watching Sunday Night Football. Aura Frames was named the best digital photo frame by Wirecutter, and it was featured in 495 gift guides last year. So the next time you need to call your mom, you can also send her a picture of your son at his lacrosse game right from your phone. Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. For a limited time, listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off plus free shipping on their best-selling Carver Mat frame. That's auraframes.com. Promo code CityCast. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
What sort of promises have you made to yourself this year? Getting in better shape, eating healthier, saving more money, traveling somewhere new? What about discovering a new culture by learning a new language? With Babbel, you can do that in just a few weeks. I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast, and I've been learning Spanish with Babbel. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons, handcrafted by over 200 language experts, get you to begin speaking your new language in 3 weeks or whatever pace you choose. And because conversing is the key to really understanding each other in new languages, Babbel is designed using practical, real-world conversations. The Spanish I learned on Babbel really helped me on a recent trip to Mexico City, ordering in restaurants, shopping at the textile market, cheering on at the Lucha Libre, and I've been keeping it up since I got home. You're a podcast listener. I know that because you're listening here. I bet you'll love Babbel's new podcasts. On Eavesdrop in Espanol, which I listen to, you get to listen to a real conversation, then have the teacher host explain back to you. Then you listen again and catch everything. And you can even read along in the transcript. It's a really fun and effective way to learn. Let's get more of you talking in a new language. Babbel is gifting CityCast listeners 60% off subscriptions at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/CityCast. Spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Babbel.com/CityCast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
So what I hear you saying in our conversation so far is that this guaranteed income pilot program will focus on the holistic aspects of going from poverty into prosperity. And that includes housing, employment, education, other aspects of life. But I'm curious, though, money is emotional. And it's also a focus around like our mental health. It's attached to our income. Many people worry about, like you mentioned, do we have enough money to pay the bills or get dinner for this week? I'm a parent and, it's hard to, sometimes look at your child or your children in the eyes and say, you know what? I can't afford it. I can't afford that toy or whatever. So does this pilot program touch on those aspects of how families connect to money on the emotional side?
It does, because each family with that economic mobility counselor, our team is a multidisciplinary team. So we have counselors that are experts on the budgeting side, the fiscal side, and we have a social worker on staff that is working with the families on that part of the emotional piece of money. On the trauma of poverty. When you grew up in poverty, there's trauma that sometimes you bring to the table. On your relationship with money, on your relationship with your family once you start to progress.
Because it also impacts like partnerships and marriages too. People break up or get divorced over money.
Impact everything. So for us, the education piece of how you manage your finance, of how you protect your credit or how you negotiate within the pilots, we have single parents, but we also have couples. So we're very excited about what we're learning in terms of the support that they need and the interventions. We're identifying a lot of time, for example, when you're the first one in your family to begin to progress, you feel that need of helping everyone else around you, and in helping everyone else around you when you're still not at a level where you're steady enough, we're saving enough, you keep trapping yourself back into the almost like a wheel of constant, I progress a little bit, but then I have a setback because I needed to help an aunt, or I needed to help a cousin, or I needed to help a mom. So negotiating that and being able to manage, right, all that emotion of, now you're doing better, can you help me? We knew from the beginning that they needed that support. I think that for us, one thing that makes us different, when we began talking about this strategy 3 years ago, we included like 30 staff in the process. And what it makes us unique is that we all come from poverty. So for us, the dialogue was, what were the roadblocks that we faced as we wanted to progress? Do we understand the mindset of people? Do we understand how they will be scared? Do we understand, like you say, the emotions that will come with the process? And what is the team that we need to build to support them on that? So that way we knew we needed people who were good in finance, but we also needed social workers on the team.
Is $500 enough?
$500 right now, we will know if it's enough when the research come out. The feedback of our families is $500 is better than no dollars, right? When you combine, in the case of some of our families, they're receiving the $500, but also an affordable housing unit. So you have a combination of service right there. I think when you want to try to put a number at, ideally, you will say, well, no, let's give them more. I think that $500 is that sweet spot that have been in research of that it have been proven to make a difference, at least in the emotional stage of people, where you're living like check to check. $500 can be very impactful on your emotional well-being. I think we're excited to see how impactful is that in terms of economic mobility, on the ability of families to pay out some debts or make some investment in some ventures that they may want to have, whether it's a house or in an entrepreneurship venture. So I think that is, if I go to research, I will tell you $500 have an impact emotionally in people. That's what we know from research. What is the impact in the economic mobility? That's that we're seeking to learn with this pilot. And I will be eager to share the results when we have them.
How do families actually transition from what is characterized as poverty into a metric of thriving? And however you define it, to a point where families aren't relying on assistance anymore?
For us, is when you hit that middle class, when you're no longer needing the support from the system, where you look at your bank account and you say, I can afford my car being broke down. When you have a good knowledge or good management of assets and a path, not for you, but also for your children. For us, that's going to be the measure, right, of that prosperity. For us, one thing that we also identifying early on, and we, in our theory, we already knew this could happen, was that we could not put a time frame and say, in 3 years, I'm going to get this family from poor to middle class. Because we knew the journey was going to have some step back, some step forward. It depends on the economy, it depends on everything that is happening on the family, it depends on 1,000 things can happen to the family. So we knew this was a long-term project, and we knew that at least we would be accompanying each family fully for 5 years. And after that, we wanted that family to feel, look, if at some point you're struggling, we want you to pick up the phone and be able to have us there with you. So for us, economic mobility is not going to stop at you were unemployed, now you're employed, you're off the benefits, and now you don't need them, and that's it. For us, each family is individual. So their needs may be individual. It may be that I have a family that the adults never leave the social safety net because the income of that person is capped at X amount and it's not a matter of skilling. But I have children in the household that the hope is that children can do better. Then our focus is on keeping that adult steady, but also working with that children. So they will do better on school. They will have better opportunities of going to college or picking up a trade that will allow them to generate more income than the previous generation. So this is a long-term game for us. It's not going to be a 2-3 year thing. This is a 5-10 year project that we hope will yield some results in terms of how we better support people in their mobility.
Dr. Michelle, what happens after the 14 months of the guaranteed income?
After the 14 months, they will not be having that cash influx, and they know it from the day one. So we don't want to create dependency. That's why the economic mobility counselors are key, because they're working with the families. They're saying for 14 months, 14 to 18 months. The research say the ideal sweet spot is 18 months. So we're looking right now to 10 to 18 months. So if we, after those 18 months, you cannot become dependent on these $500 of cash because they will not be there forever. Like one thing that we're very clear in the interventions that we're doing with the families, we don't want to create dependency. On the contrary, we want to create sense of agency. So that way, in our case, the pilot is different. We're not like other basic guarantee incomes. Some basic guarantee income just give you the money and that's it. For us, it comes with an economic mobility counselor and wraparound services to make sure that the families are supported in that process.
But in our city, I mean, the numbers are so high in terms of the amount of families that are impacted by poverty. So how do you, Dr. Michelle, voice that to city and state lawmakers? Is there a plan after this pilot or through this prosperity project to get some support from lawmakers in our city and our state?
So what we're hoping is that the data that we collect can help us influence public policy or inform public policy. That's part of our strategies from day one, what we wanted to do. And then we need the policies to change, right? If we have families, for example, receiving a SNAP or receiving housing assistance, and we cap their salaries and we don't deal with the benefit cliff, what we're doing is trapping people in poverty. We're telling people don't earn more than X amount of money because you will lose all this, but you will not be able to sustain yourself on your own, especially that threshold from 40,000 to 60,000. We need to figure out how to better net our social support. So instead of trapping generations in poverty, we can foster economic mobility. So that's our hope long term. We hope to be a voice in the table that can talk to stakeholders and say, look, we tried this with our families. It worked. They were able to move quicker. Can we replicate it to help more people thrive?
Do you think lawmakers understand the issues here?
I think people understand the issue. I think we as a society haven't figured out yet how to have how to solve it. We are too used to a system we are too used to our social safety net. And when we talk our social safety net, we either see it as something in trouble, but we don't figure out how we do it better. I think there is a space that needs to be given to innovate and think a little bit different about how we collectively care about each other. I think everyone understands that poverty exists. I don't think that everyone, and it's not only politicians, I think every individual in this society needs to understand that for us to thrive as a society, everyone has to thrive. And that's a value change, right? It's not that I'm not thinking individualistic just about myself and my family. I'm caring that my neighbors also thrive because at the end I will benefit we all will benefit of a stronger society and a prosperous society. So I think that collectively we need to have a different mindset. The poverty in the United States, the amount of children living in poverty, is our problem and should be a priority as we try to continue to improve as a country.
Dr. Michelle, thank you so much for breaking this all down for me on CityCast Philly today.
Thank you so much for your time and for your invitation.
That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. If you enjoyed this episode, tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter, Hey Philly, to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.